What's up, Dusty?
Say hello to my little friend.
I'm so excited.
That's
for you,
right.
dude.
I am too. I'm fired up. I'm pumped. I can't wait. I got talk with Dabo Sweeney here in about 35 minutes. Talk about his football team and their plight. And, they're kind of a perfect example if you really like this expanded playoff and the opportunity it presents. They lose their season opener to Georgia. They lose their final game of the year to South Carolina, but find a way in their conference championship, and they win that conference championship, and it gets them that automatic spot into the college football playoff. Though not ranked inside the top 12, here they are with a chance to take on Texas and keep their season alive. Did you know, Plank, let me ask you this. Who do you think has the most college football playoff appearances as a team?
I would guess Alabama, but knowing that you're calling Clemson, I would assume that that's the answer here.
Well, you're correct. It's Alabama. And then second is Clemson. 8 times for Alabama, 7th time this season for Clemson to make the college football playoff. They had an unbelievable run and string of consecutive college football playoff berths, and here they are back in it. And I know that he gets talked about plenty, but if you really take a step back and look at what Dabo Sweeney has done at Clemson, it's nothing short of, miraculous. Honestly. It was a good football program, obviously, that he took over, but he elevated it to a place that it had never sniffed before. So I'm excited to call this game for a lot of reasons, and obviously Texas. We know Texas very, very well around here. I think Steve Sarkisian has done an excellent job with that program, and back-to-back years that he's taken this team to the playoff. I've been told that Austin is going to be a buzz, and we're going to have some good weather on Saturday, which I can't say the same for some of these other sites. So to say I'm excited about the opportunities is an understatement, my friend.
I am too. It's funny because, Dusty, as you know, Josh has been out over the last few times that we've talked. Josh, I don't know if you realize this. A few things have happened in the portal. Are you aware of this since the last time you were here?
Yes,
Okay.
I've been taking note of that.
So I'm getting out a little early today too, Dusty, because I'm going over Brent, Coach Venables, is doing his bowl preview show, and we're actually taping it this afternoon. So there might be a chance that I could stumble upon John Mateer walking around, right? Because he got in town last night, and the report is that the visit is taking place today throughout the day. Listen, I'm one of those guys that is always, let's get the deal signed and then move on. But I don't know if I've ever seen as much optimism around many people than I do those who cover this type of thing that it's going to be Oklahoma.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I think that you would like to get the deal done before he leaves, right?
Right.
Don't let him out the door. Find a way to seal the deal. I have, I don't know how much I'm buying into it. I have seen that maybe some people seem to think that are really dialed into this kind of thing that Miami has potentially entered the chat. I would still, as I said yesterday, I'd be borderline shocked if we don't wind up seeing John Mateer in an Oklahoma uniform. Will it happen today? We shall see. But I would imagine that is the number one objective here over the next however many hours John Mateer is on Oklahoma soil, that you get him signed, sealed, and delivered. Do you call him Brent or Coach? You said Brent like that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No.
Hell no, I don't call him Brent. You kidding me? It's Coach Venables.
Okay.
I'm not that cool.
You say Brent. I said, whoa.
That's why I do it a lot with softball too. Where I'll say Patty. I'm like, wait, hold on, Coach Gasso.
Coach Gasso.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, so one thing I want to touch on with this, and I'd mentioned this to you a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Probably pull the tapes, but I told you that I felt that, I didn't know exactly what was going to happen with Jackson Arnold, but I felt confident that Michael Hawkins was going to stay
That's right.
put.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I think is interesting. Like the John Mateer talk, obviously, it's very prevalent. I actually think Michael Hawkins welcomes that. I think that he welcomes that competition and not worried about it or, needing to be guaranteed a starting spot. And, I think that his mindset is exactly what you want, and I think it's rare, especially with quarterbacks in today's portal world. I think it's pretty clear you're bringing in John Mateer to run this offense if you get him to run this offense to be the starting quarterback. But you need depth in a quarterback room, and I just think that he's a guy that was thrust into a spot this year that nobody saw coming. He handled that situation the best that he possibly could, and he hasn't blinked. He hadn't blinked, and he wants to go to school at the University of Oklahoma. He wants to develop as a quarterback, and he wants to compete. And, how big is his impact on next year's team? I don't know. We'll see. But don't you want guys like that on your roster, in your locker room, and a part of your program? I know I would.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and one final thought on that. There was a few people the other day, I was just bringing up exactly what you said. Hey, the need for depth, because you look across college football, Dusty, and we see a lot of times where you need your backup to come in, and much like in the NFL, right? Texas needed Arch Manning at one point this year. Ohio State and Notre Dame, and who am I thinking of? Oregon.
Penn State, Bo Pribula, who's now in the portal. He played the entire second half against Wisconsin.
That's right.
Lead them to a victory.
To me, I think we're in that era where you're right, dude. You need two quarterbacks, and it's not a bad thing to say, hey, Michael Hawkins, you're our future. We want you to learn more, and I think he wants to learn more too, and that to me is a great sign.
You're our future, and you know what? You're always one play away. I mean, nothing's guaranteed in college football, high school football, in NFL football. I ask Jason White. I mean, you have to have somebody who's ready to step in and step up if need be. So I wanted to just make mention of that because rightfully so, all attention is on John Mateer being in this portal, him on campus, as you mentioned, acquiring and getting John Mateer to become that next potentially great quarterback at the University of Oklahoma. But I think what we've seen from Michael Hawkins, I really appreciate, and I think he's going about everything the right way, and I just don't want that to necessarily go unnoticed during all this. You can be fired up and excited about John Mateer and recognize that there is tremendous upside and understanding of this offense and the skill set and what he can do on the football field, and also be very appreciative and thankful that, man, you got another guy sitting back there that we saw some pretty good things from at times, and who knows what the future might hold once he gets Ben Arbuckle in place and gets that coaching and development. You learn from a guy like John Mateer potentially, and that's only going to make him that much better of a player.
Whether it's John Mateer or Michael Hawkins, Dusty, somebody's got to go catch the football and make some plays with it. Deion Burks met with the media and shared, part of why it was an easy decision to come back to Oklahoma. How important is getting Deion Burks back for OU, and what do you think about some of his remarks and what's ahead for Deion Burks?
I think it's absolutely massive for him, for Oklahoma, and huge news just for this offense to get him back. Talked with Plank about this yesterday, and the way he went about it, probably a little bit difficult for Brent Venables to have to sit through until he unveiled that jersey. But I think it's huge. I think that with him, you can move him around, get him the ball. He can beat you vertically. You can obviously throw him bubbles. You can throw him slants. He's sturdy enough to deal with contact. He's excellent with the ball in his hands. I mean, a big thing will be just keeping him healthy, and I think that without question, you should look at him as your number one going into next season. So I think it's great. The other name that Plank brought up yesterday, Jayden Gibson, is another name that it sure feels like potentially he's going to be back based off everything that I've seen. And I really liked what I saw from him prior to the injury, and just it seemed like he was starting to take a big step in the right direction. From a frame standpoint, boy, it'd be nice to have that size where you can just put the ball up and trust somebody to go up and get the football. But I didn't know what was going to happen with Deion Burks, but I was elated, Josh, to see that when that news came down.
Yeah, in fact, Dusty was the one, Grayson and I were kind of laughing about it yesterday when we talked about him coming back, but we hadn't even talked about the video. And listen, I'm sure everyone was hip to it, but I know that there were camera guys in the room, and I know everyone kind of was in on it. But I'm going to tell you, I had anxiety watching that thing, man. It's like, oh gosh, what's going on here? Why are we doing this, Deion Burks? I don't need you to announce you're going pro, but it's a huge foundational piece. And Dusty, when you jumped off yesterday, we talked a little bit more in depth about this, and I wanted to get your take on it. You know, Emmett Jones did a great job in his first year. We saw things from Jayden Gibson that we hadn't seen and Nick Anderson that we hadn't seen, and then they got hurt, and it became a problem. And then last year you had a lot of freshmen that I know this probably doesn't sound fair, but weren't ready. They needed development. The Ivan Karyans, the Zion the Reagans of the world, and the Zion Kearneys. And unfortunately, they were thrust into action before they were ready. I felt like Emmett Jones took a lot of heat from the Sooner fans, and even on our text line yesterday, because people forget that room was decimated last year, Dusty, and those dudes were forced into work before I think that they were physically ready. Not everyone is Ryan Williams. What's the kid's name from Ohio State? That's a stud.
Jeremiah Smith.
Jeremiah Smith. Not everyone's those two dudes. No. So I don't know. I'm pretty pumped to see Emmett Jones getting those two guys back, and then with the portal additions and the high school guys they're bringing.
What's interesting, Deion Burks referenced Emmett Jones as being one of the reasons he's coming back, right? Said that he believes in Coach V's plan and what's going on, and he referenced believing in Emmett Jones. I also like the fact that he just said, I want to leave the place better than I found it. I like Emmett Jones. I do think it's unfair criticism given what that wide receiver room went through this year. And exactly what you said, Plank, some true freshmen are not ready to play. Now, you're thrust into a spot. Is that solely on the position coach's shoulders if you are forced to play someone that's not ready to play? I mean, everybody isn't ready to play as a true freshman. That's just the reality of it. It's not realistic. Some guys are, some guys aren't. But given what Oklahoma went through, just like you said, man, guys had to step up, and they weren't quite ready from a development standpoint. This is what I know, and this is what I trust. Last year I had mentioned this to you that Drake Stoops had a chance to do some stuff with my son, did some route running, went up to the facility all the time. We were around him a bunch. And Drake would put my son Hudson through a lot of different receiver drills and all these different things. And he would go on and on about how he learned all this stuff from Emmett Jones. And he was telling me, this is Drake now. This is unsolicited. This is after he's done with his career at Oklahoma. And he was just telling me how much better of a wide receiver Coach Jones helped made him with the nuance, the route running, the really fine detail of playing wide receiver. I don't think Drake Stoops is saying that just to say that. So if Drake Stoops, who I think has had enough, coaches at the wide receiver spot, tells me that what Emmett Jones is coaching made him that much better of a player and praise him the way that he did, I'm going to take Drake Stoops' word for it and say that he knows what he's talking about. And Emmett Jones pretty good at his job and knows how to get good wide receivers and how to develop good wide receivers. So, for that, once Drake kind of put that stamp on it for me, that's really all I needed to hear.
The first non-specialist addition out of the transfer portal to Oklahoma, Luke Baklenko from Stanford, the big offensive lineman. How excited were you to see that news, Dusty? And do you think that Oklahoma continues to be additive up front offensively?
I would imagine so. I mean, I think it's always good when you're adding offensive linemen this early because everybody's after these different offensive linemen. So, there's a lot of departures at receiver. We saw some offensive linemen go. I think that there was an expectation we'd see some offensive linemen come in. So I don't want to sit here and lie to you, Josh, and tell you that I've watched a ton of his film and know exactly what we're getting. But I think that anytime you can try to upgrade the offensive line, I think it's a good thing. And again, especially this early in the process, that tells me this is somebody that, Bill Bedenbaugh identified, really liked what he saw on film, and you're able to bring him in here very quickly. I would have to imagine that, linemen, quarterbacks, those are two of the more, prized pieces that are in the transfer portal just because there's not as many. The quality at those positions are few and far between. And I like the fact that you're able to bring somebody in this early on in the process. And the last time Oklahoma was able to bring in a Stanford transfer worked out pretty good. I'd say Walter Rouse was an excellent addition for Bill Bedenbaugh in the Oklahoma offensive line the year that they had him.
Do you see that Netflix is going to have a series following the 2024 SEC college football season?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I did not see that. That sounds like fun.
Drive to Survive just announced today.
Giddy up.
So,
well, that means cameras would have already been following them,
correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where I'm a little bit perplexed.
Are they getting these from like in-house? Like everybody's got like their own camera crews now.
That's true.
I wonder if Netflix had their own camera crews out and we're just now learning of this, or if they're like partnering with the SEC, and with that you get kind of some of those in-house clips and they piece it together. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I also wonder if it's maybe a bit of a two-parter here, a bit of a collab, because you see this, Dusty, there is like SEC cameras that are as embedded as anything I've ever seen. They seem to be everywhere. And then number two, I wonder if this might be a little dip of the toe into the Netflix pool.
Ooh. Right?
We have NFL now on Netflix. We had a major fight. It didn't go so well from the technical side. But, maybe that's the next foray for the SEC, right? Maybe if you get to a 10-game schedule – a 9-game schedule in the league, Dusty, maybe we're talking dollars and cents here and Netflix gets involved.
Possibly. I would say that may be a ways off, only because right now ESPN has complete and total they have all the inventory of the SEC. And I would be willing to bet now, unless, ESPN, ABC, kind of like they're doing with a couple of these games with TNT. Like my game's going to be on TNT. Right. ESPN controls it, but they are – subleasing it out to that. Maybe they could possibly sublease some of that out to Netflix. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. But maybe that next contract after this one's up, I think anything is on the table. And if it makes dollars, it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just a reality of where we're at right now. But that's very, very intriguing. As far as the I've been pushing for, and I would love to see a 9-game conference schedule. And it's kind of selfish reasons, like just because that means more good football. Right. Like, it's another opportunity. I would say based off what we saw this year, we just moved like 2 steps away from that. Because, with 3 SEC teams getting in and strength of schedule being talked about, and the 3 teams that were in question to get that next spot, Bama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina, all 3 of each of those 3 teams' losses came in conference play.
Right.
And we're at 8.
Right.
So, do I now think they're going to look at that and say, oh, let's add another one? Now, I know that could mean more money coming in, and ultimately they always say follow the money. But I just kind of wonder, given what we saw with the playoff and the committee's decision, which I think was the right decision, you heard a lot of people reference and bring up strength of schedule. Oh, now we're not going to play anybody in the non-conference. I think more than anything, that probably means we're not going to see that conference schedule grow unless with the new playoff starting in 26 after this 2-year run, if we saw automatic bids. Like if each league had a guaranteed set number, if the SEC got 4, the Big Ten got 4, the ACC got 2, the Big 12 got 2, which was discussed previously when talking about extended 14. Maybe that gets you back to where, it doesn't matter. Your league's going to get 4 no matter what. But until we get to that place, I think 8 conference games more than likely here to stay.
All right, Dusty. I appreciate you. I know you're busy, and I know that you are I know that you've got a conference call, so enjoy it, man. We'll let you go.
Real quick.
Go ahead, bud.
I was talking in the break, I'm not trying to. I don't even want to live in this world or mention it, but
I know where you're going.
As confident as I think you are, I am. Everyone that I've spoken to, that they're going to get this John Mateer deal done. Can you imagine if it doesn't?
Oh, it would be a meltdown of epic proportion.
That can't be a reality, Chris.
No, it cannot. That's why I'm going over there to make sure that we're going to seal this deal.
Will you do that for everyone?
I just want to make sure that you guys know I am leaving here at 10:30, and my sole purpose is to go seal the John Mateer.
You're a man on a mission.
That's what
you
I'm
do
gonna
not leave. You do not leave that meeting with Coach Venables without that quarterback signing the dotted line. You hear me?
I love it. All right. Or if they're like, hey, coach has got to get out for a TV show, I'm like, no, he doesn't. He's fine. Let him take his time in there. He's good to go. We're in no rush whatsoever right now. In fact, you guys need me to come in there at all and talk to him? I'll be ready to go, man. I cannot wait to watch you on Saturday, Dusty. Have a great call down in Austin, man.
Thanks, my man. I appreciate it.
I will see you, brother.